Hey guys, welcome back to Landscape Alert, where this week we are going to be designing this front yard based on the footage that you just saw. With that being said, let's get started. Now, this is going to be only the front yard for this area. Now, one thing that you should know is that this is in the areas of the Rockies, so that means that there's going to be plenty of evergreens close by. But that being said, specifically, it's going to be more of the ponderosa pines, and we can definitely use those, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's get to the designing itself. So one of the things I wanted to do with this one was, even though I'm not actually using this specific house, I am basing myself off for this design where you could have a front water feature if you wanted, just to make it even a little bit nicer for the front. Now, currently there is a wall, and my idea would be that you would still maintain that wall, and that itself would allow you to do a water feature and also some stepping stones to the front entrance, essentially the front door on one side. So we have obviously the house, we have the driveway, and then on the right side, if you will, which in this case would be where you would have the sod, that's where we would also have the water feature. Now, this water feature would not be so big. Essentially, it would be a bit of a one fall type of thing, where it's enough to where it adds to the texture and the house itself. Keeping in mind that you have some windows in the front of the house, so you can sort of see this water feature, but mainly your neighbors or guests would be the ones to be able to enjoy this. It doesn't mean it's a bad idea, but it is one that I want to use because there's a lot of people that also use this style of designs for water features. Now, next to the house, I did put a few shrubs there, kind of around it, and then we also put some of those stepping stones to get to the front yard, and then also a tree and a few other shrubs for the area. Now, the grass area is not really big. It's probably about 23 by 38 or so feet in space to have a bit of turf there. And then on the opposite side, there is also some shrubs and a tree, again just to give a little bit of that color and to also make it look nice, with some stepping stones that will lead you to the back. Now, let's talk a little bit about what I was thinking in terms of trees and shrubs for the area. Now, at least in this area where I was filming was a little bit above the 7,000 feet of elevation. So there are certain things that will definitely grow, but we don't have a huge amount of options. It doesn't mean that there's no options at all, but it means that it's a little bit limited. Now, naturally in that area, there is going to be a lot of evergreens that will grow, and among those will be some of the firs and some of the pines and also spruces. But close by, you will see a lot of the ponderosa pines that you could also use. But just to have a little bit of difference in color and texture, I was thinking something like maybe a white fir or maybe even a Colorado spruce for the area in the front, next to the driveway. Also a few other shrubs, and then on the opposite side, maybe have a tree, a deciduous tree, maybe something like a Canada red cherry, maybe an Amur maple or a Rocky Mountain maple. Now, all three of them will have a red-like aspect to them. However, you will have a bit more of the burgundy colors with the Canada red cherry versus the Amur or the Rocky, where they will give you more of those orangey reds, if you will. Of course, it's going to depend on the taste, what you prefer in your colors. So that's also something that you should think about if you are wanting to use any of these trees. Now, of course, there is going to be a good amount of wildlife in the area, mostly deer, also rabbits, squirrels, and so forth and so on. So depending on what you have there, you may want to think about what you want to put in terms of shrubbery. Lilacs are great, but unfortunately, those are more or less like candy to wildlife, specifically talking about deer. So right now, in terms of a list that would definitely work, but keep in mind that the wildlife there. I was thinking something like maybe some Russian sages to give you some of that sort of blue color, some junipers, maybe something a bit of it on the low ground type of like a rug, like a blue carpet type of thing. As I mentioned earlier, the lilacs. There are definitely a few different kinds that you can put in the area. Some Frobel spireas, some sumacs. Sumacs, you will have a few different kinds. So maybe something like a low grow, some Goldra potentillas, some sunset potentillas. Again, even though they're going to be similar-ish, they're going to give you a bit of different colors as far as in terms of their flowering and leaves. Also, some Carl Foster grasses that would give you a little bit of that sort of height and elevation next to the stepping stones. And the way I designed it was that you would have access from the top and also from the bottom, not only the turf but some steps to lead you to the water feature, again just to enjoy it a bit more. If you are going to have it, you can just be right next to it and enjoy it on essentially 3 areas, if you think about the turf in this design itself. But I think this is kind of what the design that I was going for. I thought that this would actually work really well for the area, and because it is a high elevation and there is not a lot of water, you definitely want to think about how much turf you want to put in there. Generally speaking, in this area, at least where I took the video of this house, which we will be working on, there is a good amount of water, but unfortunately it is not consistent, which means that even though we can put a good amount of turf, you definitely want to think about more of the native turf versus the rolled turf, just because it's not going to maintain its color. So in order to manage that, it's best that you do a little bit less of turf, a bit more of rock in this case, to make a good design. But I wanted to bring this to your attention. Maybe you're in an area similar to this, or maybe you just don't want to mow a lot of grass, even though grass in itself can be less expensive. At the same time, it requires more maintenance on your part and potentially more water that maybe in your area you have, or it could be a bit expensive. So something to think about. But let me know your thoughts on this. Are there any trees and or shrubs that you would use from the design? Let me know in the comments. At the same time, we have an Instagram and we have also a TikTok. I know we have that in case you are working on your design. I would like to know what you are doing with that, and hit us up if you have any either requests or ideas for future videos. Definitely like to hear that. And of course, don't forget to do all the YouTube stuff, subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. You know how it is with the YouTube algorithm and so forth. But anyways, guys, don't forget the model over here, which is Dream Design Create, and I will see you guys on the next video. Take care of yourself. Bye.